Hello, everyone. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to remind you that my book, Drummers on Drumming, is available now on Amazon as both a paperback and an ebook. Based on the Big Fat Five segment of this podcast, where I sit down with my favorite drummers to discuss the 5 records and stories that shaped their approach to the instrument, this book is packed with insights from the drummers who redefined how we think about the modern drum set. You can grab your copy now by checking the link in this episode's show notes or simply searching Drummers on Drumming on Amazon. So thank you for all the support, and now let's get into the show. What is up? Welcome back to Big Fat Five, a podcast financially supported by Big Fat Snare Drum. My name is Ben Hilsinger, and this week's guest is Branden Steineckert. Branden was a massive part of my childhood as a founding member of the band The Used, specifically the first 2 records for which he played drums and had a major role in the songwriting. For the last decade, Branden has been the drummer for Rancid, so he's a legend playing with legends. And I was uniquely excited about this one, so I hope you enjoy my chat with Branden Steineckert about the 5 records that shaped him into the player he is today. But, of course, on the day where I was really pumped to chat with a certain drummer, my computer decided to be a little crabby, and so I had to resort to the Zoom audio for this one. It's not bad, I just wanted you to know that I know. Regardless, Branden, throughout the whole thing, was a trooper, and it showed how patient he is and how kind he is, and he was great. So thank you so much, Branden, and hopefully it's all seamless and you don't even realize. Anyways, cheers.
It's all in how you mix the two, and it starts just where the line exists. It's a feeling that you cannot miss. It burns a hole through everyone that feels it. Well, you're never gonna find it if you're looking for it. Won't come your way. Well, you never find it if you're looking for it. Should've done something that I
All right, Branden, so I am so excited to have you on the show because I am such a massive fan. Those first 2, I know you're not in the band anymore, but the first 2, The Used records, are such a big part of my growing up, and I'm excited to hear about what the hell influenced you. And you're doing great things in Rancid today, so you just keep on trucking, which I love. But yeah, let's get into it, man.
That means a lot. Thank you. Honestly, those are what they reflect me creatively. My best friend Quinn and I, we wrote all the music on those first 2 records. You know, it was like our bass player was really just starting to play bass. So he was just kind of trying to keep up and figure things out. And we just let him do his thing. And Quinn and I wrote, and we struggled to get our singer to show up, you know? And so those records were really a reflection of Quinn Allman and I and what we can do together. And I'm still so proud of those albums today because they truly represent what I can do and my creativity and my art, you know, not to sound pretentious, but it's just like, if this is an art medium, this is my art, and that reflects it the most. And then on the flip side of that same coin, which is my drumming career, you've got what I do in Rancid. And to me, it was like Rancid was one of my favorite bands before I joined the band. They had a very, very established sound. And I remember that was a really tricky gig to land in the way that I, as a fan, took the approach like, look, this band means a lot to me. If some other guy joined the band and just overplayed and just fucked up this sound that I love, I'd be really bummed, you know? But it was also like, but I'd be bummed if some guy came in and just made no presence for himself at all. And so I really tried to just like, not be out of the way, but do what the song needs and just lay a foundation, you know? And so I try to be selfless about it. But in the end, I mean, I kind of feel like I play like 4 drum beats in this band, you know? It's like there's 8 different fills and 4 different beats. And it's like it doesn't reflect me creatively, but I give 100% to these 4 beats, you know, and I'm very grateful that I get to do what I get to do and that I get to be in Rancid. And so it's certainly not a lack of appreciation. It's more respecting the process and respecting the band and not wanting to fuck it up for fans like myself who this sound that was very established meant a lot. So anyway, long-winded answer there, but I think in the end, like the compliments about the U's still mean the most to me, where to me, if someone compliments Rancid, I feel like it's relatable. I'm like, they're like, I love Rancid. I'm like, me too. Rad, right? Like, I mean, awesome band. But rather than like me be like, oh, thank you, that represents me. It's like, no, this was a band. Like these guys were legends when I was in high school and barely starting to play drums, you know? And so I can't take credit for that. I don't take that as a compliment towards me and my work. But when I hear people that love the first 2 used records I wrote and played on and put my heart into, that means the world to me, you know? And so it's cool. You know, I love that stuff.
Do you ever put them on and rock out to them and play along to them?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That makes me so happy to hear.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. There was a buddy I had here that was, he was in town. Like I live in like the southern part of my state, in Utah, and they do a lot of triathlons here and stuff. Long story short, a guy I befriended who was here with some friends, this triathlon athlete, was a massive used fan and was just like, dude, is there any way you would play Blue and Yellow for me? I was like, you know what? Sure. You know, it was like one of those things. Like, I was like, I don't know that I've ever done something like this for someone. Believe it or not, I'm very uncomfortable playing drums in front of people. Like, I'm just not that guy. If you have me sit down and ask me to play, I'm like a roly-poly you just touched. I'm going to ball up and like roll around on the ground. You know
Ditto, man.
Like,
ditto.
Get me with my band and on stage and fuck yeah, like I'll go ape shit. But like, you're not going to hear me do drum solos. You're not going to hear me like, I'm just not that guy. But for some reason, it just sounded fun to me. And I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. So I brought him out here, gave him some headphones, and I just put it on my phone, and we were both, you know, and I hadn't played the song in a minute, you know, but I just played through the whole thing, and a handful of my friends were in here, and we had a blast. It was actually really fun. I've considered doing some videos, like playing through some of those old songs, because they really mean a lot to me, and I'd love to just throw a GoPro up or something and make some videos and post them or something, you know?
Oh, dude, that would make so many drummers happy. You have to do that. All right, and I know you just said you're not a drummer's drummer, which I'm not either, especially when it comes to gear. But if you could get nerdy for a second, if you remember, what was the snare drum you used for that first used record? This sounds so amazing.
I'm pretty positive that was we did a little bit. We did a lot, was a Pearl free floating brass. And then we had another brass snare in there that wasn't anything special. But the ironic thing is, I don't know, a lot of people have seen like our little home videos, like DVD we put out, the Maybe Memories DVD, that will show clips like in the room we recorded in. And it was smaller than the room I'm in right now, which is not large. It was a very small bedroom in John Feldman's house in Marina Del Rey. And he had like a desk with his, not even a console, a desk with an iMac on it, a handful of compressors is all, and this Pearl export kit right behind him, like from me to this drum set. And I was just, you know, it was facing him, but I was playing everything right there. Our only like room mic was an SM57 that was 12 feet down the hall in this little half bathroom that had a shower in it. And that shower mic, he just put a mic in there and compressed the hell out of it. And that was our room mic, you know? And so because of that, we were actually had pretty shit tones, but he had like, what was it, Drum Doctor, like sound replacement stuff. And he'd 50-50 like this specific snare that I've actually got that file, but he's got this snare that we'd go 50-50 with the real tone and this tone that would match the wave and all that stuff and be exactly what I played, but add this crack from this snare. Like had this awesome attack and like a little bit of high ring. And the beauty of that sound replacement thing and it being like 50-50, if that, it was just in there enough, but it made it cut through the mix without necessarily being louder, which was great. That's where he sold me on it, because I was like, wait, sound replacer? That sounds like I'm going to be playing V drums practically. Like, I want to hear the drums I'm playing, and I wasn't quite up to the technology at the time, because Pro Tools and all of this stuff, I mean, we're talking 2002, and some of this stuff was very early stages, and I was very weary of anything that wasn't organic, where I just wanted an organic record. I wanted raw tones. I wanted it to be just raw, in your face, honest, like Beat Detective and shit like that. It's like, well, hang on. Like, well, you can do what to drums? Like, no, just get the take right, like, and it was like, my whole thing to him was like, if you Beat Detective something that I played, I don't want to be able to hear the difference. Like, if I've played it well enough to be on the record and you go in and edit it or something, I don't want to be able, like, whoa, I sound a lot better, And so I was just really weary of the technology and these things, because I didn't realize at the time that stuff existed, and it felt like cheating to me. And so there was this 50 hertz kick drum sound that we did 50-50, and I've still got that file too. It's an awesome kick. Those two alone don't sound that rad. But when you 50-50 them with whatever tones you're getting out of a kit, they sound pretty awesome. And that was where we got these like rad tones that ended up like, I was like, crank the overheads, crank the room mic. Like, I want it to sound like a room. I want it to have like this fucking live sound. And like, I always loved that rage tone of drums where it's just like kind of that bit of a Bonham feel, and so I was just trying to go for that, where he was going for polished Pro Tools, modern, and that middle ground was where we landed, so it's quite polished. It does sound like Pro Tools to me. If I was running things, it would have sounded a little more live, but I was very happy with like the performances and things like that, and knowing that like, all right, we made these drums sound great to the microphones before you added any sound replacement stuff. And I made sure my performances were on point so that none of us could tell if it had been beat detected at all, which I don't know how much stuff was done because I couldn't tell, which was great.
Well, you are great, because you've just made an amazing segue for me with your first choice. And this is also a record where the band was hoping that it would be a little less polished, but it still went on to be wildly successful. So it is Nirvana's Nevermind. Came out in 1991. The key track that you're going to talk about is Territorial Pissings, and Dave Grohl on the drums. So take it away.
Yeah, I just remember the first time I heard, I think for a lot of people roughly my age, but the first time I heard Smells Like Teen Spirit was just like, what the fuck? You got to know, picture me being this like small town Utah kid, grew up in a very conservative Mormon family that didn't have music in our household at all. But meanwhile, I had been this kind of troubled kid, like skater, like, outcast since I was 12, that just started going against the grain and had a lot of piss and vinegar in me, And so I was just kind of searching for my people. And I found that in skateboarding, and I found like where I felt like I belonged. But there started to become a soundtrack to that thanks to skate videos and things like that. And I was being exposed to a lot of incredible music, but this was late 80s at the time, and it was like a lot of that music didn't really do it for me, but it was just a cool soundtrack to what I loved. And then, when we got into the early 90s, I remember hearing Smells Like Teen Spirit the first time, and it was just like, what the fuck? Like him screaming a denial over and over at the end, and I was just like, how am I hearing this on the radio? This is like the fucking greatest thing. And look at these guys. You see the video and you're like, they fucking look like me and my friends. Like, this is amazing. And it just resonated so hard with me. I hadn't even ever thought about playing music or nothing like that. I had never played an instrument in my life, And then by the time I was playing in my first band, we'd fuck with Territorial Pissings a lot and play that as a cover song. Because it was like, everything about the energy of that song, that drum roll at the beginning. I mean, when you're like a fresh drummer, just to even play that drum fill was the hardest thing, it seemed like. But yet everything was like within reach. it wasn't this like overwhelming, unachievable drumming. And all of Nevermind to me was such an example for every instrument of just like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Just play. Have fun. Because it was like, listen to these chords, listen to these, the verse, it's 2 notes on guitar, like with your finger on the first fret. It's the easiest shit that like we all learn to play whatever instrument we play. And you learn that right away because it makes you feel like you get to play the songs of a great band. And it just made things feel achievable. But what it put emphasis on was songwriting, not individual talent. And to me, that was like, because that was my first impression to music, was like, yo, this is about the whole, not the individuals. And while Dave Grohl was incredible, he wasn't just like doing fucking solos behind these like simple songs. He was doing exactly what the song needed. And just something as wild and ferocious as Territorial Pissings, and just how fucking like Kurt's vocal on that, everything about that song was just like, yes, like, how are you not so fucking fired up when you hear that song? Like, and again, it felt achievable, and that's inspiring. It's like, I don't know, listen to some overplayed stuff might not have inspired me to pick up an instrument, because I would have been like, yeah, no, that's a million miles away from me, and I could never do that. But to quote, this is probably inaccurate, but I feel like I heard a Dave Grohl quote where he mentioned something along the lines of like, he writes drums for air drummers. And I don't know if that's even true or a real Dave Grohl quote, but I loved that idea, because you don't have to be a drummer to be driving on the street and want to be tapping drum beats, listening to any song on Nevermind, any Nirvana song for that matter. So that was just that record, that band, that just opened a door of possibilities that, and then it was just so fun covering that song with my early bands. And honestly, we'd even cover that song with me on guitar. I wouldn't even be playing drums on that song, so, but it was still just so fun. The first show I ever played, we actually played Heart Shaped Box. They were just like such a great band. So I had to pick that album because that was the staple, and that song to me stood out the most for sure, as just something that really blew my mind,
I love that. Of all the people that have brought up that record, I thought that's the best way to describe it. Approachable, focused on the song. It just started you off on a right path from the get-go.
Yeah.
And it was also just cool.
Exactly. But it changed what cool was, right? Like, it gave us a new version. Even that was achievable, because what are you looking at before that? I didn't even listen to like 80s like hair metal or whatever, but all of that was so theatrical and so much glam and whatever to it, that it was just like, yeah, I don't even know where you buy clothes like these people, and I don't know anybody like any of this shit. Like, I don't know, this isn't relatable to me, and when they came out, it was like, fuck, these are just like skater punk kids. Like, this is, it's like grunge, are we calling it? Okay, whatever. That's cool. They just seem like normal people. That's what's cool. Like, I love that. Love that.
All right, here is Territorial Pissings.
Come on, people now! Smile on your brother! Everybody get together! Try to love one another right now! When I was an alien, cultures were my opinions. Gotta find a way when I'm there. Gotta find a way that I like. Never and so it's a gotta find a way when I'm there. Gotta find a way.
So number 2, Rage Against the Machine. The album is Rage Against the Machine, and the release year is 1992, and the key track is Killing in the Name of. That song makes me want to just go to war. And yeah,
Right?
Brad Wilk is the drummer. So when did this come into your life and all that jazz?
Man, like right when this record came out, and I remember I still have the clipping from Thrasher magazine of like these guys playing the smallest show and the smallest like blurb write up about them, and I still have that. Like, and I was a super fan the minute I heard them, and this was the first song I had heard. I could not believe the lyrics, like both the political message and importance, which that didn't exist in my life at the time. It was like I didn't know anything about politics and stuff. This was just like eye opening in so many ways, in such important ways. One of the most important records of my lifetime, I dare say. And it kind of pulled the blinders back for a lot of us, like at least Gen Xers, you know, it was like, wait a minute, there's some fucking shit we need to be aware of and we need to be paying attention. And not only that, revert to simply the music, like the lyrical content, the fact that it says, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Oh my God. Like as a conservative small town kid that was being forced to be raised Mormon and in these fucking shitty schools, that one line was like the most powerful thing on earth to me. That was like my motto. Like I wanted to carry it around on a sign, you know, and it just made me feel like, fuck yeah, there's people out there with like this same attitude and angst I feel. And I see how they direct it at things that can make a difference and fucking stand for something. And you know what I mean? The integrity behind it, not just bratty kids like, nah, like it was like, no, this is not just being a fucking jerk. This is like a real fight and really standing for something. And so musically, this band was all of those things to me. But then drumming wise, this is like the time I was really starting to play. I just remember like literally like between Nevermind and Rage Against the Machine, these albums were my drum teacher. Like playing along to these records, because again, the same aspects that I love about Dave's drumming on Nevermind, I loved about Brad's on the self-titled, because he was playing things that were achievable, or so they seemed. You know, what my untrained ear was thinking I was hearing was like, I could play that. I think I could play that. And it's like, you know, you're just playing this dun, dun, ba-na-na, ba-na-na-na, it was just fucking like, yeah, but it's just like the most basic beat, but it said so much by saying less, you know, or by doing less. And that again just shaped so much of like the songwriter drummer in me, where to me I've always been like, maybe that's a silly way to put it, but I've always claimed myself to be like a songwriter drummer more than a drummer, because I just don't care about how rad it makes me look. I want to write good song. And that means lending to a vibe, lending to a vocal, lending to a melody without overplaying. I feel like you could hear some of the soul, R&B, funk, some of the influences that I feel like Brad had and the things I've heard he had. I feel like you hear that a lot. And he was also the first drummer I heard that was using any kind of percussion. I remember simply those cowbells that I believe it was on, you hear him at the beginning of Killing in the Name, you know, just that, it's like, it was like, whoa, what's that? Like, we can get toys too? Like, I want some of that shit. And
Yeah.
suddenly I'm buying like wood blocks and cowbells and things for my drums and bells. And I'm like, got this little rack by my hi-hat. And I'm like trying to think of ways to incorporate that stuff to create additional grooves or melodies or whatever it may be. And it was just like, it just opened doors without overwhelming me to have like, oh, I need 45 drums and, you know, a second kick drum. And it was like, no, clearly I don't need that shit to play cool beats, because for the longest time, Brad was playing a kick, snare, and floor tom. And it was just like, yo, you're sick as fuck. And all you have are those and two cowbells? And you wrote this record? Like, okay, I don't need shit. Like, we can go back to the basics. We just need good grooves, you know? And the way it was synced in with bass and the rhythm section of it all, and then complementing the guitars, and again, painting an awesome canvas that the singer can then just send it home with something on top of it. So Thanks to those guys, I learned how to write songs as a drummer.
Absolutely. All right. Well, here is Killing in the Name.
Forces are the same that burn crosses. Some of those that work forces are the same that burn crosses. Some of those that work forces are the same that burn crosses. Some of those that work forces are the same that burn crosses. Killing in the name of. Killing in the name of. Now you do what they told you. 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 And now you do what they told you. And now you do what they told you.
All right. Number 3 is Dookie. The artist is Green Day, release year's 94, and the key track is Longview and Mr. Trey Cool. So, yeah, take it away, man.
Hell yeah. Ironically, I was just with these guys a couple weeks ago, and they played Dookie beginning to end in this small club in Las Vegas, and it was incredible. And then I was chatting with Billy Joe about it afterward and kind of reminiscing the story of the first time I heard Longview. And it just it was the first thing I heard by Green Day. I didn't know about Kerplunk. I didn't know about the early records. I didn't know about these bands. Again, living where I lived, the only way to find music was either on the radio or a skate video, or one of my friends happened to know about it, you know? And so that was the first song I heard, and I was just like, what is this? Like that verse, that intro, I had never heard any drumming like that before that I could recall. And that bass line, everything about that was just like, and Billy was even joking, like, yeah, it was very different for us, and we've really never done anything that sounds like it again, you know? But like, it was just so interesting in the way that rhythm and the way he utilized the kit and the toms were like the whole verse, no snare, no, it's like, oh, hang on. And then to hear that dynamic change of like when the snare finally comes in and like the beat and the guitars, it was just like, it kind of introduced me to dynamics. It introduced me to all these possibilities, you know, of exploring the space and the kit. Even those little hi-hats he'd creep in during the verse. It was like, ooh, that's really nice. How the fuck did you think to do that? Like,
Yeah.
You know, my small brain the creativity wasn't unlocked yet. And so it was little things like that, those tiny things that made the biggest impact. And I remember like Welcome to Paradise, the bridge in that song. It's fucking sick. It's like the dopest like punk rock bridge beat, but yet Trey Cool takes that like thing we've heard a bunch of people do and makes it fucking cooler by adding this bell accent in there. And it's like this ding, 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 ding. And it's just like, what? And like, to this day, like I just geek out when he plays that. I'm like, that is the sickest shit. And then also like Dookie as a whole, you know, it was so hard to pick one song. I had to pick Longview because of all these reasons. But I mean, man, I learned to play fast trying to play to these songs. It's like I was finding a lot of punk rock at the time and falling in love with it. Again, these looked like people I would hang out with when I saw the videos. It's like, wait, you look like me and my friends. Like, fuck yeah, these are my people, you know? And the lyrical content, everything, like it just was fucking felt like my friends. But yeah, just learning, like attempting to keep up with Trey was so hard for me, and it really forced me to play faster. And I've been ripping off little things he's done all my life, because he's the fucking, I love that dude's drumming. I love that band's songwriting. I love the guys, and I'm so fortunate to call them my actual friends now, which is fucking crazy to me still. It's like, well, wait a minute. Like, what is life? This shit's weird, man.
Yeah.
It's just weird. I don't get it, but here I am.
Well, speaking of the Welcome to Paradise, I remember it was like maybe 4 or 5 months ago, his drum tech took a video of him playing that groove, like kind of walking from the side stage. And for the longest time, I swore that he overdubbed the ride cymbal, because I've tried to get those little floor tom things in there.
Right.
And I was like, oh, he's not even doing that. Like in my head to convince myself I'm not the worst drummer in the world. And then I saw the video and I'm like, fuck, he is doing that in real time.
Yeah.
What a bastard.
On the bell of a ride, too. You know what I mean? Like, what? You're hitting it that accurately? And this wasn't fucking Pro Tools. And this wasn't like edited. Like, he's nailing that shit and nailing it so accurately that, like, fuck, man. Like, he was that first drummer for me that made drumming a little stressful, but in a good way. Because I was loving these guys like Brad and Dave that, don't get me wrong, like, I don't think, like, their talents, but just what they laid down in their songs and their styles and stuff. And it was like, I could play along to a Rage song or a Nirvana song. I couldn't play along to all the Green Day songs I wanted to do. And it was like, God damn it, man. Like, this shit's too fast, or I can't tell what you're doing. Like, I can't wrap my head around this. And it was frustrating, but in such a rad way that pushed me, and that bridge part specifically, I remember thinking like the same thing, like that's gotta be something they added in or something, you know what I mean? But like, and then as soon as I saw that it wasn't, it was just like, yeah, no, I don't even want to, like, to this day, I haven't sat down and properly tried to play that.
Yeah.
I need to for myself. I need to like learn that, just to prove to myself that like, I am, not as the same as when I was 16.
Yeah.
But who knows? It'll probably just frustrate me and make me feel the same way it did when I was 16.
Yep, me too. I remember when I learned the all 3 of the fills in Burnout too, especially that last one, where he kind of goes on the 2. Going to what you were saying, they're not like insanely technical, crazy parts, but they're so perfect. And he builds them up, and the second one is a little bit crazier than the first one, but then the third one ends in this open way over the bar line. It's perfect. Yeah, it's so good. And they would do like drum solos, but it wasn't like this fucking obnoxious, like, here we go, let the drummer's ego have his. It wasn't like that. It was like, no, this is just proper. And if anything, they weren't doing guitar solos, which I kind of loved, because I love guitar, but I don't love guitar solos. Like, there's a time and a place, I love when Tom Morello does it, it's fucking like insane. When Kurt Cobain would do it, he was typically playing the melody of the song. So it just made you love the melody more because you're singing along to it, but as a whole, I'm not the biggest guitar solo fan. Again, he driving to the point of the songwriting. I loved how Trey was able to put so many notes in a song, but never stepping on the song, and like something like, I think Basket Case will always be just a drum flex song of just these single stroke fills that are fucking all over the place, but awesome and so consistent and tight. But it was like, hang on, like you're actually doing a fill right through like the vocal hook when you come in on the song, but yet you're not fucking it up. And it doesn't sound like you're screaming like, look at me. This is actually what the song needed at that point. Like, you found it. And in this moment, what it needed was some flash on the drums, not a basic thing, and I think, I mean, I don't know if maybe it's from Billy Joe's played drums a lot too, and kind of has a bit of a drummer, I think, approach to things and his songwriting, but somehow they just make it work. And he can play all this incredible shit, and he knows when to flex and when not to. And I couldn't think of an example where he stepped on a vocal or bombed out a song because he was flexing at the wrong time. Like, he was just so good at that, or is. I don't mean that past tense at all. Yeah, exactly. He's still killing it. Yeah. And speaking of Basket Case, I mean, I know everyone knows that song, but even just the tension he builds with that little, like you're talking about the open hi-hat and long view, that little, I mean, it's the most iconic hi-hat bark
Oh,
of all time.
yeah. How does he do that? Where it's like it becomes a drum hook to just simply throw in that little. It's like you hear him stepping on the pedal. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. We all do that.
Yeah, yeah.
None of us thought to. It's like, why didn't we all think of that? Like, it seems so obvious now, but he needed to do it first.
Oh. All right. Well,
Amazing.
here's Longview.
I'll sit around and watch the tube, but nothing's on. I change the channels for an hour or two. Tweet all my thumbs just for a bit. I'm sick of all the same old shit. In the house with unlocked doors, and I'm fucking lazy. Bite my lip and close my eyes. Take me away to paradise. I'm so damn bored, I'm gonna wear blood till I smell like shit. Peel me off this Velcro seat and get me.
All right. So this is a record I've never heard of Snot. So I'm
Okay.
awesome. The album Get Some. The artist is Snot. The release year is 97. The key track is I Just Lie. And Jamie Miller's the drummer. So I have no idea who Jamie is. So I'm really excited. So yeah.
Okay. So Jamie is someone that you would know of, but not know of in that sense. So fast forwarding beyond that, there was a band called The Start, and Jamie and his wife have been together in that band for ages. Snot unfortunately disbanded and broke up after their first record because the singer Lynn passed away in a car accident, unfortunately. So it was a short-lived band, really just one record. They made a second album that they had made and finished, but Lynn passed away before doing vocals, so they had guests come on and do every song. It was like every 90s singer you could think of was on that album. But so really they were just a one album band. They had a very unique style at the time that was kind of, they were in that era of what everybody would call nu metal, but they just gave it something unique and fresh that was so, I don't know, just different. It had elements of punk rock to it. It had elements of hardcore. It had elements of a lot of funk and just all these different things. But anyway, so I'm bouncing back and forth. But so when The Used was first like starting to do our own tours, I had met Jamie and Amy because they were playing as The Start. And so we brought them out on tons of our tours and just befriended them even more. Cause I was like the fanboy that like the first time I saw Snot, it was literally a room with like 30 people in it. And I didn't know who they were. It was this funk festival show that only maybe 100 people came out to, but it was these random funk artists just kind of there doing solo stuff. John Frusciante was there. It was during one of his times he wasn't in the Chili Peppers and wasn't doing so good, but he was doing solo shows. And so me and my friends went to go see him. And all of a sudden this band comes on. We're like, wait, who is this? And like they started, and everything we had been hearing that night was just funk, like just roots funk, like so rad. And like all of a sudden Snot comes on and we're like, what? And it was fucking awesome. So we like hung with the guys and talked to them afterward. And I was underage. It was at a bar. So they had to like X up our hands was the only way they'd let us in, which was so like old school, like, but it was just like that way we couldn't go near the bar because, and we weren't legally supposed to be in there. And it was just the raddest thing. So to get a chance to like befriend them properly and hang out and tour together, Jamie actually played guitar in The Start and then did that for years. They still do stuff with The Start. And he is an incredible guitarist, but such a phenomenal drummer. And then now he is currently playing drums for Bad Religion. So he's been in Bad Religion ever since Brooks Wackerman left. So a lot of people that might not know Jamie Miller from Snot might know like Bad Religion's current drummer. Like, that's Jamie Miller. And he's just so fucking good. But his tracks on the Snot record are so, it took all of the elements of everything I've been talking about with these drummers and took it to a new place where, like, the way he would utilize the whole kit and the toms in beats and go from halftime to double time to just like the way he would do things was just so unique at the time. It was unlike anything I had heard. And the way he would use a splash, the way he would use the bell on his ride, it was like, wow, what? That there? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense when he's riding on a splash cymbal for like a measure or two in a verse. Like, wait, what the fuck? Who would think to do that? You know, but it was just so rad. And the way the guy played, it was just like, it was incredible. Like, you know, that guy that gets all the viral videos with the flame kit and it's
yes,
the drummer at the wrong gig kind of thing. Like, Jamie played like that long before that dude was ever, long before that, but did it to like in a proper setting where he was playing this like heavy kind of metal music and just had that kind of a fucking presence. And I was like, oh my God, look at what you can do as a showman. And that just brought me to a new level of like playing physical and trying to utilize the full kit for beats, whether it's the fucking rims of the toms or a splash or a china or a bell or whatever, you know, like every one of these guys just unlocked new doors for me. And those doors became my creative house to work within, you know, and Jamie was a massive one. If you knew his drumming and those songs well enough, I could point out to you, like I'd sit in a car with him and show him spots like, recognize that? Like, that's yours. I ripped that off from you. You know what I mean? Like, and then it was awesome because the next Start record they made, he did the same thing to me, and he took the beat I played on Take It Away, exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And he made that almost exact with the little touches and fills. He did it almost exactly the same on one of his songs on the Start that he played drums on. And I was like, holy shit, like, who would have ever thought you'd be like stealing stuff from me on your record right after I stole stuff from you for my record? Like, it was amazing. And I love the guy to death. He's the best. I highly recommend anybody check him out. Bad Religion or Snot, of course. So.
All right. Well, here's I Just Lie by Snot with Jamie on drums. All right, so number 5 is The Shape of Punk to Come, Refused, 1998, the key track New Noise, and David Sandstrom. So take it away.
I mean, I feel like the song speaks for itself. Anybody that's heard this song, it probably impacted their lives. You know what I mean? Especially if you heard it back then. I don't know that I caught wind of it. I feel like it might have been closer to 2000 by the time I actually heard this. And they had been broken up for however long already and not even a band. I'll never forget, Quinn Allman stumbled over this somehow. This is such early, weird days of internet stuff and wherever we would watch. I mean, YouTube wasn't a thing. God, I sound old, but like, I guess I am. But
so am I.
But somewhere we were online, like, and Quinn was like, dude, like, I don't remember if he saw it before me or if we both saw it at the same time. But either way, we're in his parents' house. He pulled it up on this little computer and we watched the video to New Noise. And at the time, we were in a rut, but we didn't know that we were, because all of the songs we would write for our band at the time, this is literally the transition into becoming what was the Used. All of the songs we would write, every single one was us trying to play a different genre, pretty much. It was like we would have literally like a punk song, and then like a kind of nu metal song, and then a funk song, and then like our version of like ska reggae, and it was just like this lack of identity. But we didn't give a fuck because we were having fun, and we loved all of these kinds of music. And it's like, yeah, so what? Why do we have to like pick a lane? We just want to explore the highway, you know? And when we heard New Noise, again, that opened up maybe the biggest room of all in like the creative house, because it was suddenly, to see that video was just, I don't know that I've ever seen something that just hit me like a brick in the face like that. And I would love to have that same feeling again, but it was just so different, so ferocious and heavy, only seemed to get heavier, you know? And it was just like, David's drumming is so fucking good. Everything about that, I was just like, oh my God. It's not ironic in the way that the first song Quinn and I wrote when we decided to scrap everything we had been doing was Maybe Memories, which has so many blatant ripoffs, or should I say like kind of tip of the hat to Refused and that song. You know, we actually used to, at one point, we started going into a brief medley or like kind of a cover of it in the middle of that song live, because we'd go into this bridge that was fully just like down again, and that little guitar, we were just ripping off Refused. We wanted to be that so badly, you know? But we were also like, hang on, we need to stop just trying to rip off the bands we love. We need to not try to emulate everything that is out there that resonates with us. We need to just throw them all in a bowl, stir it up, and let it influence what comes out. We just both seemed to be in that place where something clicked, and we stopped trying to sound like other bands. And that was like the last time we were like, I wouldn't say ripping off, but heavily inspired and influenced by a song that you can hear it in the song. Because the whole way we wanted Bert, when we got him to write to the song, we had already written it and demoed it completely. And we referenced New Noise, and we're like, yeah, we kind of want the vocal to come in like this. You just scream something straight into the downbeat. You know, we're like, it sounds heavy as fuck. Like, and so when we first wrote Maybe Memories, it didn't even have like the intro. It like the that was like the pre-chorus that was going to come in where it does come in, but it just simply started with Bert singing like the As We Trudge Along in the Mud, and it just came in. And then later we like evolved the song, and that was really the only change we made, is we brought that pre-chorus in and let that march be like the intro, and then you know, and it was just, but it was us. That was our last like kind of, there's times we let songs influence us. I could point out, you know, a song that was inspiring every song we wrote, you know, but we weren't trying to emulate them. It just changed everything, man. It changed everything, like our approach, and just realized like there's so much more out there that can be done than our little imaginations were letting us do. And we just had to let that go and stop. It was almost like we had to stop trying, which doesn't make sense, but because we put more effort than ever into our writing. But we had to do it with no objective other than to make sure we loved what we were doing. And we did. For the first time, it was like we truly loved it. And we were like, yeah, we don't really give a fuck what other people think of this. We love it. And it's ironic that the time that truly became the approach was what resonated with people the most.
Well, here is New Noise by Refused.
Can't afford the luxury of turning our heads, but we can. Just $1,000 smile and behold the creation of man. Great words won't cover all the actions. Good faith will save the nation. Woo! We're back to motion. From out to the new beat. Down. We're back.
All right, well, that's your Big Fat Five. But it was such a pleasure talking to you. I'll let people
likewise.
know we had some technical difficulties on my end, so Branden was insanely gracious and patient. So I appreciate that, man.
No, I appreciate you having me. Thank you. This has been fun.
Yeah, man. I wanted to say too, the one time I think maybe I've seen you more than once, but the most memorable time was when the Used opened up for Boxcar at the Paramount Theater in Seattle. And I remember it was 4 songs into your guys' set. And I don't know if you remember this, but someone broke the floor and you guys had to walk off stage. And then it ended up being to the point where, like, set times, you guys, Bert just came out and was like, "I'm sorry, guys, we're done. We can't finish the set." Because he's like, and then it became this whole thing like, what fat ass broke the stage or broke the floor in the mosh pit, for everyone knowing. And the Paramount Theater is this huge 3,000 cap theater. And someone just like fell through the floor and you guys had to stop. It was so funny.
I forgot about that. I totally forgot about that, but I remember that well.
Oh,
absolutely.
My God.
That was such a great tour. That was so much fun.
And it was what H2O was, I think, the first of 3, and you guys were direct support.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could have seen more of you guys play, but actually, I think I saw Rancid play. Did Rancid tour with the Transplants a few years ago? So maybe, I think I saw you with Travis open up with so I've seen you more than once. Yeah. But that one was the time I was like, my God, that's so weird. broke the theater.
Such a weird reason to have to stop.
I know.
The floor is giving away for the crowd. Like, holy shit.
And also knowing routing too, it's like you guys probably were in Portland, drove up to Seattle, then we're going to go back down to Utah. It's like to come up all the way to Seattle for like 3 songs was like, damn it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was frustrating for more than one reason, but as a fan, it was memorable at least.
That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words. I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll talk to you soon, dude. And it was great to meet you, man.
Rad. Sounds great. Nice to meet you.
Cheers, dude.
Okay. Have a good one. Later.
See you. Bye.
Big Fat Five.
Alrighty, this week's Big Fat Favorite is from Sheridan Riley. Sheridan plays with the band Always. And their pick is the album The Runners 4. The release year is 2005. The artist is Deerhoof. The key track is Twin Killers. And Greg Saunier is the drummer. So here's what Sheridan had to say. Greg and Deerhoof as a whole had a psychedelic effect on me, to be perfectly honest. It sounded familiar, yet entirely alien. The one would shift mysteriously, yet I was still headbanging. Nothing landed where I thought it would, and it was very thrilling. Greg's relationship with time inspired my young ears. It felt tense, yet melodic. His press rolls and the places he would choose to crash felt like guitar feedback to me, chaotic but also organized. Then I learned that he has a master's degree in composition, is a multi-instrumentalist and mastering engineer, and loves Charlie Watts. My life changed. All right, here is Twin Killers.
every hand, drinking to pass the symbols. They're killers, short life again so long.
And that's the show. If you're listening on a platform that allows ratings and reviews, do that. It helps more people find the show, so it'll get bigger and better, and hopefully I'll have a chance to sell out one day. But you'll be an OG listener that can brag to all your friends. Anyways, why don't you go and check us out at bigfatsnaredrum.com and follow us on all the socials. Just search for Big Fat Snare Drum and you will find us. The show is edited in part using Isotope RX Audio Editor. It's amazing, so go check that out at isotope.com. And thanks again to Gunnar Olsen for the theme music. Bye!